Jay-Z did not make serious money, only because he could rap better than almost everyone around him. That was the door. The money story gets more interesting after he walks through it, looks around, and starts asking a colder question. Why should I only get paid when I perform, if the larger money is sitting inside the thing being sold? That question follows him from records, to clothes, to touring, to liquor, to streaming, to sports, to the company wrapped around his name. And the pattern starts before the world treats him like a legend. In the mid-1990s, Sean Carter was not the safe industry bet. He was older than many new rappers. His style was sharp, confident, and hard to package. Major labels were not exactly fighting each other to build his future. So he and his partners Damon Dash and Kareem Burke built their own doorway. They formed Rockefeller Records, and in 1996 released Reasonable Doubt. That matters because it was not just a creative move, it was a control move. Most artists dream about being chosen. Jay-Z's early business story is about what happens when you stop waiting to be chosen and create the room where the choice happens. Reasonable Doubt did not instantly turn him into the biggest rapper alive. It was respected, but it was not a giant pop explosion on day one. The important thing was that it gave Rockefeller proof. Now Jay-Z was not only a performer trying to convince a label he had value. He was attached to a company with momentum. That changed the conversation. When people tell the Jay-Z business story, they usually jump straight to the billionaire headline. But the first useful lesson is much smaller. He built proof before asking for bigger terms. Proof is different from hype. Hype says, "Trust me, I will be huge." Proof says, "Look, I already built something people want." By the late 1990s, Jay-Z had bigger albums, bigger singles, and a brand that was becoming larger than one record. The Rock was not just a label stamp. It became a world: music, videos, clothes, friends, slogans, hand signs, and attitude. And once you have a world, merchandise stops feeling like merchandise. It starts feeling like membership. That is where Rocawear enters the story. Rocawear launched in 1999 at a moment when hip-hop was not just music people listened to. It was a language people wore. The clothes did not need to explain themselves. If you knew, you knew. For Jay-Z, this was a smarter version of celebrity endorsement. He was not just lending his cool to somebody else's product. He was turning his own cultural signal into an asset. That difference sounds simple, but it is enormous. If an artist gets paid to wear a jacket, the check ends there. If an artist helps own the jacket company, the attention can become equity. Rocawear grew into a major apparel brand. In 2007, Iconix Brand Group agreed to buy the Rocawear brand rights for $204 million in cash, with possible additional payments if the brand hit performance targets. That sale is the first big moment where the story stops looking like normal celebrity money. Jay-Z was already famous. He could have kept collecting performance checks, album money, and endorsement deals. Instead, he had helped build a thing another company wanted to buy. That is a different kind of wealth. But the next move is even more revealing. In 2008, Jay-Z made a huge deal with Live Nation, widely reported around $150 million. The important part was not only the headline number, it was the structure. The deal helped create Roc Nation as a broad entertainment company, not just an album machine, not just touring, management, publishing, records, brand work, and eventually sports. This is where his business model becomes clearer. Jay-Z was widening the surface area of his own career. If music attention could sell clothes, it could also sell concerts, partnerships, artists, athletes, events, and brands. His job was no longer only to be the product. His job was to build pipes around the product. That sounds less glamorous than champagne bottles and billionaire lists, but it is the part that matters. Distribution is boring until you own some of it. Roc Nation gave Jay-Z a way to turn relationships, taste, reputation, and deal flow into a company. He could still be Jay-Z the artist, but the business no longer depended on him releasing an album every year. That is a serious shift. Artists are usually trapped by attention. They need to keep feeding it. Jay-Z kept using attention as fuel, but he also tried to build engines that could run without a song at the center. Then came the luxury brands. Armand de Brignac champagne, the gold bottle many people know as Ace of Spades, became closely tied to Jay-Z's image after appearing in his orbit in the mid-2000s. In 2014, he acquired the brand. In 2021, Moet Hennessy bought a 50% stake. Again, the pattern repeats. He did not just advertise the bottle. He made the bottle part of the story, then owned a meaningful piece of the story. The same broad idea shows up with Dus Cognac, developed with Bacardi. It was not just, here is a famous rapper holding a drink. It was a premium spirits brand built with cultural heat and corporate distribution. After a legal dispute, Bacardi increased its stake in Dus in 2023, while Jay-Z retained a significant ownership position. Even when the details are messy, the strategic lesson is clean. Cultural influence is most powerful when it is attached to ownership, not rented out one campaign at a time. Tidal is another version of the same bet, but riskier. In 2015, Jay-Z bought the parent company behind the streaming service Tidal and relaunched it with artist owners. The pitch was not only better sound or exclusives, it was that artists deserved better economics and more control in the streaming era. That was a hard business to win. Streaming is brutally competitive. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and Amazon were not waiting politely for another service to stroll in wearing a tux. But even here, the exit explains why Jay-Z kept playing this kind of game. In 2021, Square, now Block, agreed to buy a majority stake in Tidal for $297 million in cash and stock, and Jay-Z was expected to join Square's board. Not every bet has to dominate the whole market to matter. Sometimes a bet matters because it creates optionality. It gives you a seat in a different room. That phrase, seat in the room, could almost be the theme of the whole Jay-Z business story. Rockefeller gave him a seat as a label owner. Rocawear gave him a seat in apparel. Live Nation and Roc Nation gave him a seat in entertainment infrastructure. Armand de Brignac and Dus gave him seats in luxury spirits. Tidal gave him a seat in tech and creator economics. Each time, he was not starting from zero. He was carrying trust from one market into the next. That is easy to misunderstand. People sometimes talk about celebrity businesses like fame does all the work. Fame helps, obviously, a lot, but fame alone is noisy. It can open a door and then disappear. Jay-Z's edge was that he treated fame like a distribution channel, not the whole company. He attached it to products with margins, partners with scale, and deals where the upside could keep growing after the photo shoot ended. That is why his career feels less like one lucky jackpot and more like a portfolio. A record catalog, a clothing exit, a management and entertainment company, liquor stakes, streaming equity, investments, real estate, art. Some pieces are public, some are private, some valuations are estimates, but the pattern is visible enough. The biggest twist is that Jay-Z's business, man line became famous because it sounded clever. Then the next 20 years made it look like a thesis. He was not saying, I am a businessman now, separate from the artist. He was saying the artist was already a business. The audience was not just an audience, it was leverage. The image was not just image, it was brand equity. The relationships were not just celebrity friendships, they were deal flow. The lesson is not that everyone should launch a clothing line or buy a champagne brand. That would be the fake version. The real lesson is about converting one kind of capital into another. Jay-Z converted lyrical credibility into attention. Attention into trust. Trust into brands. Brands into equity. Equity into exits and new rooms. Because he kept moving up the ownership ladder, each win gave him more than cash. It gave him credibility for the next negotiation. That is why the story still works even if you remove the celebrity gloss. At every level, there is a practical question hiding under the shine. Am I only being paid for my labor, or am I building something I can own? For most people, ownership will not mean a champagne company or a streaming platform. It might mean a small product, a client base, a catalog, a useful tool, or a skill that compounds. But the principle is the same. Labor pays when you do it. Ownership can keep paying after the moment passes. Jay-Z's first major wealth did not come from one magical deal. It came from seeing that music could be the start of the business, not the edge of it. And that is what separates this story from a normal celebrity success story. The fame made him visible. The ownership made him rich. So here is the question. Which Jay-Z move was the smartest one? Rockaware, Rock Nation, Tidal, or the liquor deals? Tell me which one you would have wanted to own and why. Because the answer says a lot about how you think money is actually made.